Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to another review video. In a moment I'll be reviewing Joe Frankenstein from Chuck Dixon and Graham Nolan. Definitely recommend it, I'll just tell you that right out the gate. But I'll talk to you about some of the great things about it, why I think it's good, and a couple points I think could have been improved a little bit. But definitely recommend it. It'd been a little while since I'd done one of these recommendation videos, so I want to get back into them. And I was looking for some material to do, and I saw, I follow Chuck Dixon and Graham Nolan on social media because I'm a big fan of their work. Classically, of course, their wonderful stuff they've done with DC. And even since then, I mean, I'll put links to the videos below and maybe up in the corner there to some reviews I've done of Chuck Dixon's vampire novel, Graham Nolan's Monster Island. These were all some really great stuff. I did see Chuck Dixon mention that they were selling the publisher was going to sell an old Conan story he had done. And I thought, Chuck Dixon and Conan, that's a marriage made in heaven. But I actually didn't like this all that much. And it kind of bummed me out because I was like, Chuck Dixon's my hero. I mean, talk about, some of the greatest writers when it comes to these heroes. He's right up there, Chuck Dixon, Paul Dini, people like that. But it goes to show, too, that even the greatest writers aren't going to at least write things that are to your taste every time. Now, I would argue it's not just to my taste. I am a skilled editor. I've been trained. I have the degrees and whatnot, and I have the credentials, and recommendations behind me as a copy editor. But it goes to show that writing is a process, and not everything everyone writes is going to be of the same caliber all the time. Like any piece of art, like musicians and whatnot. So, always make sure you keep those critical lenses on as you go through and consume, your favorite producers, your favorite writers, and whatnot. Doesn't mean you still can't enjoy them or support them, but occasionally, you guys know from musically, this band, this album wasn't quite as great as this album, and so forth. Same thing. So anyway, all that to say, I was very excited when Joe Frankenstein came in. So Joe Frankenstein, it was originally published by IDW as a 4-part series. Now they're republishing it now through Compass Comics. You can read the IDW series; it's out there. I have yet to read the whole series. You can find it, online. Look at it, Comixology if you want. But I'm waiting for the hardcovers of the Compass Comics version to come out. So I've read the first one. I'll review this, and then I'll review the second one when it comes out. This combines a lot of stuff that you would have had to go to different places. I forget, like the prologue, the black and white prologue is here that you would have had to go to a different place to get if you were reading the IDW version. And it says it's expanded, so I don't know if that means there's extra story in this. There's certainly extra artwork and extra, extras in the back and whatnot. And it's well worth it. They describe it as coming to the Compass Comics universe, too. So I think they are building a universe. I've received a lot of emails. They've got an app and a cool website and whatnot. I need to look into that more. But this is the true version of it now. So this is the version I'm reviewing. It says it's obviously art by Graham Nolan, created by and co-written by Graham Nolan and Chuck Dixon. I don't know if that means that they both came up with a story, and Dixon wrote the script and Nolan did the art, or if they both wrote the script and story, but, created and co-written by Chuck Dixon and Graham Nolan, and of course Graham Nolan's wonderful art there. This came to me a while ago. The campaign for Part 2 wrapped up somewhat recently, and I should be receiving that soon. And you can, if you missed the campaigns, you can go on Compass Comics website, and or just look up Joe Frankenstein on the internet. It'll take you to places where you can still purchase the books, so you don't have to just sit around waiting for the next campaign. It did come with, one of the things I appreciated about the campaign is that all the stretch goals were just included. Sometimes campaigns can get a little convoluted, especially when you go to like some Kickstarter campaigns and they've got 1,000 different covers, and if you get this package, you get this and this, but not this, and oh, that cool thing you saw over there, you got to go over here in this package, and then you got to do a backflip and click an add-on button and it gets too complicated. So I did appreciate that they just had everything, one go, you click back, you get the product. It came with pretty cool little bookmark there. Lights glaring a little bit. Frankenstein's monster with the raven, and a pretty sweet sticker. Haven't figured out where I'm going to put this yet. So, let's talk about the book. of course, you've got Graham Nolan's solid art. It's about our actual Frankenstein's monster here, so it's not just another character called Frankenstein. It's our actual Frankenstein's monster there, the creature, or creature as he prefers to be called. And then the Joe Frankenstein down here is a descendant of, I forget how they had some clever way here, because of course in the novel it's Victor, and in the movie they changed it to Henry. And I think this goes back to Victor as the doctor, and then they make his son Henry, if I'm remembering correctly here. But it's got a cool beginning flashback scene in which you get some of the exposition and you get the history of the creature. And I like that they kind of took the best of the novel, the best of Mary Shelley's novel, and the best of the James Whale film. Because those are the two seminal sources of the story of Frankenstein in our culture. And they've both got great things to offer that the other one doesn't, or the other one's changed and so forth. And this really struck a great medium between the two, I thought. The look of Frankenstein's creature is still very much from the Universal film, but the story elements, they do include a lot of them from the novel as well, so I appreciated that. We do have, and I won't spoil anything beyond the first couple of pages, because this is just sort of set up that you get immediately. The creature is a monster, as he was created, as he was in the... He does have this moment, he does end up killing his creator, as such, but not before he insisted that his creator make a bride for him. That's in the novel and in the movies, of course. And, of course, the bride rejects him. And I love that. I love that the bride rejects him, because he pours so much more of, Victor Frankenstein pours so much more of his time, energy, and attention to the aesthetic, of the perfection of the female form and whatnot, much less than he did just cobbling a bunch of parts together to create a life in terms of the man. And that comes into play here. So the creature is out for revenge, he kills his master. He tries to kill Victor's wife, and he has this really cool moment where he sees that she's with child. And I won't show any more pages here, but he sees that she's with child, and he couldn't do it. The innocent life within her stays his hand. And I thought, that's subtle, but that's cool. Talk about a conservative value. Talk about a gasp. We're actually going to think or have in a story that an unborn child's life has value and isn't just a parasite you can knock off if it's not convenient to you. I like that. Other thing of that is, too, one more thing of that nature is that the creature eventually finds, in the novel and in the movies too, he finds the blind man. In the novel, he finds a whole family, and the grandfather's blind. But in the movie, The Bride of Frankenstein, there's that iconic scene where he's with the blind monk. Well, he finds this blind Father Michael, and this Father Michael is the first person to show him kindness and actually teaches him to, speak, teaches him to, be educated and whatnot, and teaches him faith. Teaches him morality. Now, it doesn't go through. That's all you get. It's not a matter of the story like Frankenstein's creature doesn't go around, preaching Christianity to anybody or anything like that. But hey, we just saw a positive representation of Christianity. Not just Christianity, but Catholicism of all Christianity is a positive representation of that in modern media. I'll take that in a heartbeat. So I appreciated that. Okay, so that's the setup. The setup is he goes through the ages, basically as the guardian of Frankenstein's progeny, watching each generation and whatnot, because he has to guard them against the bride. The bride was not blessed with immortality. Again, I'm not going to say anything more that's told to you in these first opening pages, but his bride was not blessed with immortality like he was. In the way that the doctor put him together, he's immortal, where his bride isn't. So she's having to resort to some things. We don't even know what she's resorting to yet, but these means and manipulations to try to improve, elongate her life, and it's basically preying on others. And there's this kind of dark underworld network of monsters, and she's kind of the head of this, and she's out there, preying on the public, whereas he's a protector of innocence. Specifically, the Frankenstein line. So that's your basic setup. You've got this timeless creature who's a selfless hero, out there to protect innocents, particularly those of the Frankenstein lineage. And I'll spare some of the details. I won't go into any more of that. But I appreciated the fact that you got, monster turned hero. The story gets really interesting because we have Joe Frankenstein, again, the current descendant of the Frankenstein line, who doesn't even know he's a Frankenstein. He's adopted. And he has this incident where it's an inciting incident where he stumbles into these vampires. and these vampires are trying to prey on him. Well, of course, the creature's going to save him. But that's the inciting incident that reveals the creature's existence to Joe. And then we have some things that happen in the story and whatnot where the existence of Joe Frankenstein gets back to the bride. So now it's becoming more than just one incident. The creature has to actually save Joe Frankenstein from the bride. You know, they're on the run, they're doing all these things. So really great setup to a story, great action, characters that you care about. Joe Frankenstein, for his part, I was talking about a lot about the creature, why you really care about him. He's selfless, he's trying to make amends for his past deeds, and he's just being a hero, being a good guy. Joe Frankenstein is a pretty decent stand-up guy, too, in what little we get of him of the story, so we're invested in him. He cares about his foster family. You know, he's bounced around from jobs to, you know, from home to home, but he's with this foster family that have treated him pretty well, and he's trying to do right by them. He is holding down a little pizza delivery job. You know, he's a kid, so he's trying to do the best he can. He's got a girlfriend, but she's kind of tired of him not having money and whatnot, so you relate to him, right? And he seems like a good guy. And we've got a great setup in book 1. And it does end with a bit of a cliffhanger because, of course, it's a 4-part series. So I like that. I liked that concept of the bride, the feminine, obsessed with her own immortal, not just immortality, but immortal youth, immortal, you know, her own prolonged life, her own beauty. Where you have because that would be the toxic feminine, right? You know, concerned with that over anybody else. And then you've got this masculine hero who's ugly to look at, right? He's the creature, and yet he's genuinely true masculinity. On the inside, it's protecting others, using his power to protect others, and he's amassed quite a fortune throughout the centuries, obviously, you know. So he has a lot of resources. I didn't want the story to be over. I was kind of bummed when it was over. I was like, oh, and I don't want to go and read the digital ones. I want to wait until I get the hard copies. So part 2 should be coming in soon, and I'll give you another review of that. The only criticisms I would have for it are just two little story elements. Two little story elements that I think might be explained in the next book or something, but I imagine might be some small little oversights. There's one in which this vampire, the creature kills these vampires that are trying to prey on Joe Frankenstein, and you get the impression that he's used to this. He's had centuries of experience slaying these monsters and these vampires, yet one vampire survives. And she gets away and, you know, gets the word out about Joe Frankenstein. And I thought it was a little like, well, how did she survive? If he's got all this experience, is she like a special vampire? Is she specially powerful? And that's why she was able to play dead without him knowing it or something like that? You know, I just wanted to know how she got to survive. This wasn't his first night on the job of vampire slaying. I mean, he's used to this kind of stuff. So I wanted to know a little bit more about that. The other thing was that they're trying to save Joe Frankenstein's foster family from these monsters as well. And they believe they've tied up loose ends. You know, they believe they've tied it up. And they go to consult Igor. And Igor is this supercomputer, this really cool looking supercomputer. And, you know, kind of like the Bat computer, so to speak, you know. And the creature asks him, you know, is there anything we've overlooked? And the supercomputer says there are still cell phone records about him talking to his girlfriend. And the creature's like, oh, how could I have forgot? How could I have overlooked such a thing? And I'm thinking, yeah, how could you have overlooked such a thing? You've had centuries of practice watching and caring for and keeping track of the Frankenstein line, even to the point where the bride couldn't do it. You've got a lot of experience here, and it took a freaking supercomputer to get you to check the kids' cell phone records? I mean, you know, that was just a little thin. Now, again, this might be completely explained in the next book. I don't know. But it was a little like, yeah, you know, I hope there's an explanation to that. I hope it's not, you know, even if it was something like the creature's still getting the hang of the new technology that's constantly developing. I mean, you can imagine all different ways why this would make sense, but it's not in the story yet. If it's not in the story, then it doesn't matter. So you got to put it in the story. But it might be there. It might be there in the next book. So those were the only two little things that I thought, oh, that could be a little tighter. But other than that, I can't recommend it enough. I thoroughly recommend Joe Frankenstein. It's a solid, fun read. No nonsense in it. Just a good, well-told story. And it's a great setup. It makes me very excited to follow the adventure. So I'm going to look forward to doing that in the installments that come. And I'll put out reviews of those to come as well. Also remind you that I do have reviews down below of some of Chuck Dixon and Graham Nolan's previous work. You can check those out. Look out for this one. And until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the true blue hero stories you love. Thanks for watching.